All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. In transit for today takes a look at the future of gas prices in this country. Let's try and get the outlook for the fall. Dan McTeague is with us. He's president at Canadians for Affordable Energy. Dan, welcome back.
Good to be here, Elias. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk. I wonder when you're looking towards the future here, when you try and do forecasts, like how many stages do you put? Do you do short, medium, long? And why don't you break it down? what you're looking at here?
Elias, when I first started doing this, and you and I did in many interviews in the past, I've always sort of been able to rely on markets, fundamental supply and demand, to give sort of a short or medium term outlook. Long term, unless you're probably better trying to pick lottery numbers than to figure out where it's going to go. But by short term, I mean the next 3 or 4 days. That's pretty simple, but more complicated becomes the next 2 to 3 weeks, only because this market has been, to use lack of a better term, dysfunctional. It no longer really looks at or obeys the economics 101, less supply, more demand equals higher price. We're seeing, less supply, we're seeing strong demand, and we're seeing, in some cases, gasoline prices have actually dropped. Now, some of that, of course, is the seasonal change from summer to winter gasoline, which we saw in the past week, but that isn't really having an impact on oil prices. And so it's harder to say with any certainty where it's going to go. And the bigger issue, without being, I guess the word's gratuitous, is simply that you have people are very nervous about the economic outlook of the world. I believe that we may be heading to a recession, things like economic slowdown in China, to higher interest rates, central banks acting the way they are. All these things suggest that we could see a slowdown economically. It hasn't happened, of course, but that's really why I think we've seen prices restrained, came down from where they were last summer to where we've seen now. But the threat is certainly there now with OPEC Plus, and fewer options in terms of the Europe and North America in providing greater amounts of energy. It looks like we're heading towards an energy deficit, like it or not.
And you were mentioning just how like regular market principles are seemingly aren't applying anymore. Is that because of just governments being more and more interventionist when it comes to the energy dossier?
Well, sure. Energy is political, but no more so than we've seen in the past little while with, for instance, the Biden administration using up the emergency reserves to try to stabilize price, or at least inject into markets oil that has now has to be replaced, but more importantly now sees oil in even shorter supply, with that option becoming less and less an opportunity. But there are other factors as well. I mean, we've seen years of underinvestment or discouraging investments in oil and natural gas plays. And so what's really happening now is it's creating a premium for the product. And all it takes is for what has, for the past 10 years, we haven't heard from OPEC. They haven't been a big factor. It's because we were drilling, we were pumping, we were building pipelines here in North America, and to a lesser extent, being able to supply Europe. That is no longer the case for a whole host of reasons, which are, yes, themselves political, but of necessity. I think now we're starting to look at a very alarming situation developing, Elias, not so much on the gasoline side, but on the diesel side. I mean, you're paying $2.10 for a liter of diesel. It's likely to go up 30 cents because we haven't hit the cold weather yet. Diesel isn't just it isn't just the product that runs your economy, jets, trains, trucks. It's also, of course, used for heating oil, and we're heading into cooler weather. And as that happens, you're going to see greater demand and lesser supply.
And diesel, of course, that if it goes up, if it's 30 cents, like you just said, right, that affects the cost of everything, right? Because of how we transport so many things.
Well, that's it. Farmers have to pay more. Mining, all of our industry will have to pay more, and of course, the mere cost of distribution, transportation, becomes a bigger factor here. So, I'm not sure how this is going to end. What I can say is this: we saw prices spike before. And especially during the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and it stayed very high until June, and then it dropped. It won't do that this time. It's going to stay pretty much where it is. If you don't like $2.10 for a liter of diesel here in Montreal, you're not going to like $2.30 or $2.40. And gasoline itself will have to follow inevitably, because we've seen a sort of refineries, by the way, have been going crazy producing spare amounts of gasoline, which is why oil's gone up $10 a barrel this past month. But gasoline has pretty much remained neutral, except for what's happening at les dépanneurs and our retailers here in our region. The reality is that what we're seeing is oil now inevitably affecting the price of gasoline as refiners try to make more diesel. They also, as a consequence, have to produce a lot more gasoline.
Dan, can I ask you, just in the case of transport, and maybe I should also focus it to personal transport, have we reached peak oil in that sense? Quebec right now, 20% of the new cars are electric. Similar in British Columbia. It varies in the other provinces because they don't have those lucrative subsidies to buy an electric car. But have we reached that? Is peak oil a thing?
Peak demand is. Peak oil is really a question of who provides it, and I think the emphasis on preventing, if you will, Elias, hog-tying the ability to produce and to effectively get these things to market. Global demand is going from 100 million barrels to 104. Mm-hmm. What we do in North America, a bit of a split decision, and here's why: our population is increasing by what appears to be 1 million a year. It could be less, could be more than that. So whatever savings we think we're getting on the surface, and analysts I don't think have done a very good job at this because it's relatively new data, controversial as it may be. All of these targets that we establish may not be possible, and sooner or later someone's going to have to throw in the towel and say, "Wait a minute, it takes a lot of diesel to mine, extract, produce, refine, process." All of the renewables and electric vehicles that are out there. Not only that, of course, yes, you may have the grid in certain parts of the country, but the consequences go well beyond, demand for oil or gasoline. It also, in the case of British Columbia, goes into when will people in British Columbia begin to pay for Site C, for the electrical dams that are being built there that are in the billions, the tens of billions of dollars. These things have not been well understood yet. They will be. And, of course, that impacts affordability.
Dan, just to wrap up for our listeners who are driving in their cars right now, just for the next few weeks, what's the number that they're going to see at the gas pumps?
I think until we hit our Thanksgiving, so another couple of weeks, I think we're pretty good. You'll see prices range between what they should be today in the 168 to 174 range. After the mid part of October, I think we're going to start to see prices slightly move up. Between now and the end of October, and that's very hard to make this. I think we're looking at another 8 to 10 cent increase, pushing prices back up to a little higher towards $1.80. Nothing crazy, but it's the focus has to be on diesel because that's the one that is going to go a little sideways on all of us. And I think policymakers, as well as consumers, aren't ready for that just yet.
Dan, thanks so much for the discussion. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Have a great week.
That's Dan McTeague, president at Canadians for Affordable Energy.